And this was a perfect segue for my next guest, Cook political report publisher and editor, Charlie Cook. Charlie, today you're talking about this. You write about how this Republican on Republican conflict is not going to help the party when it comes to the midterms. Quote, the party needs to sublimate its divisions, get mainstream Republicans to the polls, and persuade the Trump base to cast ballots for non-Trump Republicans. That's a tall order, and it's why last week's news reduced the odds of the GOP retaining its majority from a good bet to even money. Explain, Charlie.
Well, I think the president's feud with Republicans in Congress and their leaders, and obviously he's unhappy that they were not able to repeal and replace Obamacare and all these other things, but it's effectively driving a wedge between the Trump base and Republican voters, the Republican Congress, and I think it's going to make things really, really difficult next year. They've got to get a big turnout, and you know, they might remember that back in after President Obama was elected in 2008, I mean, you had these younger, these minority, these idealistic voters who came out for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, but they didn't show up in the midterm elections, 2010 and 14. And I had a Democratic pollster say, you know, they didn't call them Obama voters for nothing. Well, that's the thing about these Trump voters. And are they going to turn out for candidates of a Republican Congress that the president's been trashing? I think it's a real problem for them.
Well, and given that, we got to take a listen to what Steve Bannon said last night. Take a listen.
We are declaring war on the Republican establishment that does not back the agenda that Donald Trump ran on. It's a new game in town. We're going to cut off the oxygen to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's biggest asset is the money. We're going to make it the biggest liability. We're going after these guys tooth and nail. Even safe incumbents like Barrasso and Deb Fischer, they have to understand something. Just voting is not good enough. You have to have a sense of urgency. Nobody's safe. We're coming after all of them, and we're going to win.
So what Bannon essentially wants is not conservatism, is not brand republicanism. It is complete and utter loyalty, maybe even blind loyalty to Donald Trump, blind loyalty to nationalism. How does the Republican Party survive that? Look at what Bannon did, not only with Breitbart and driving the wedge and helping Donald Trump get elected, but what's happening with Roy Moore.
This is incredibly self-defeating. And if you think about it, of the last 6 midterm elections from 1994 forward, 4 out of 6 have been disastrous for the party holding the White House, where they've lost either their majority in the House or the Senate or both. 4 out of 6 times. The only exceptions, 1998 after the backlash to impeachment, and 2002, 14 months after 9/11. And the thing is, there are sort of 3 major causes for a party having a disastrous midterm election. An unpopular president, check. A divided party, check. And a Congress that has failed to deliver, check. So this is, you know, we don't know what's going to happen 13 months from now, but this is what it looks like when the wheels start coming off a bus.
Charlie, are you confident that any of those rules stand, given this president? Nothing stood in the 2016 election. None of those political rules mattered ultimately. Why should it be different now?
You know, I really wondered that right after the 2016 election for a few months. But this year, it looks like maybe the laws of political laws of gravity were suspended last year, but I don't think they were repealed. Because if you could be as controversial, as confrontational as President Obama was, or excuse me, President Trump has been, and your job approval ratings were up in the 50s, then that means that all politics has changed. But where we are now is he's behaving in a way that would cause subtraction rather than addition. And guess what? His approval rating has gone down. I mean, we're talking about 46% of the vote, and he's got a job approval rating of about 38% right now.
But that job approval rating and that approval rating in general is not that far off from what we were seeing in the run-up to November 8th last year. And it just turned out that even though people didn't like him, didn't approve of him, thought that he was problematic, they still went and voted for him.
You had a race between the 2 most unpopular nominees in American presidential history, and one of them had to win.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a lot going on last November.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you know, Donald Trump got 46% of the independent vote. What's his job approval rating among independents right now? About 31%. You know, he's holding his own with Republicans, but that's it. And you know, it's hard for his party to get Trump voters out in a midterm election for candidates he's been trashing.
Charlie, can I get you to quickly weigh in on what Mitch McConnell should do to counteract the Bannonites?
Oh, I don't. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, I think in the cases like Wyoming, where in Nebraska, well, Democrats have no chance of picking those up. But where this has a reason to be really problematic is Dean Heller in Nevada, Jeff Flake in Arizona. These are seats that are in real jeopardy. And you could have a Republican incumbent who would probably have a tough general election, lose to an exotic, another Republican who would have very little chance of winning a general election, or they get so weakened that they can't turn out the Trump people in the general election. So this is, I think, a very self-defeating strategy. I think the president hasn't sort of thought through, wait a minute, if Republicans lose a majority in the House, that means handing subpoena power over to House Democrats. Would that be fun? Probably not. And if they lose a majority in the Senate as well, and I don't think that'll happen, but if that happens, that's where the impeachment word starts coming up. And so the president really needs to think about the consequences of some of these things he's doing.
Charlie Cook, always great to have you. Wish we had more time to continue chewing over this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Katie.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.